Alright, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between the Canon 80D and the 90D, which I am currently recording on now. So, let's start the intro and we can get into the differences. Alright guys, so I'm currently recording on the 90D right now. Pretty sure I just said that. So first we will talk about the Canon 80D specs, and then maybe I'll switch out the camera and talk about the 90D specs. First off, on the outside here, the cameras are pretty much identical except for a few things. Really, only three things. The side here where your mic jack goes and everything like that is pretty much the same. The USB changed, but the layout for the 90D is a little bit different than the 80D. So, on the back of the 90D, you have your back LCD flip out screen, and you pull that out right here beside the wheel here. And you have your Q button here, your wheel, normal stuff like that. Those of you that have seen the 80D already know this, or those of you that have it, I don't really gotta explain too much there. But on the 90D, they introduced a joystick pretty much right where the Q button is here on the 80D. So I'll go ahead and show you guys that. The layout of the buttons is just slightly different, but other than that, the grip here, the grip on the 90D is a little bit deeper, and I would say it feels a little bit more comfortable in the hand. Not that this one doesn't feel good in the hand. Once you get used to it, you really don't notice the difference, but if you first purchase the 90D, you'll be able to tell almost right away. So, jumping inside the camera in the specs, the 80D is a crop sensor, ASPC crop sensor. This one is a 24 megapixel sensor. The ISO goes from 100 all the way up to extended 25,600 as far as the ISO goes for the 80D. Now, frames per second, this one will only be shooting 7 frames per second. Okay, my battery just died. So, anyways, where was I? The resolution. You can get 1080p resolution with the 80D. As far as battery life goes, you can get about 960 shots. That's photos with the 80D. Now, the 90D and 80D both use the same battery, LP something. They're the same battery. Now, as far as connection goes, sorry if I keep looking down. I wrote some notes. The 80D has NFC and Wi-Fi, and of course you can also plug it into your computer as well as any other DSLR. So these days NFC is kind of obsolete, but I'm pretty sure Wi-Fi will pretty much always be a thing. I don't know what could come next after Wi-Fi. I don't know. Guess we'll have to see. Alright, so stabilization. This does not have internal body stabilization. It does not have IBIS. So if you're trying to vlog or moving around, taking pictures like that, make sure you're holding your hands still. And also, make sure you have a lens with autofocus. Unless you're a doctor and you have, like, the steadiest hands in the world. I don't. My hands are shaky. I don't know why. Probably because I drink a lot of caffeine. Like, a lot. So, anyways, autofocus. This does have face detection and tracking, and it's pretty good. It's pretty fast as far as the autofocus goes. So that is always pretty much a number one priority when I'm looking for a camera. Because I obviously do my YouTube videos and I do photography on the side, and especially when I'm working with my kids, they just move around way too quickly at sudden moments, and it's difficult to get a nice crisp. It's difficult to get them to stand still. Frame rates, the 80D can do 60 frames per second up to 1080p, so you're not sacrificing anything like that as far as frame rates go. But like I said, it does only go up to 60 frame rates per second. Now, the price on the 80D these days, if you look it up on Amazon, is about $900. That's without tax, just body only, $900 you're looking to put down if you want this baby right here. Well worth the money. When it came out, it was around probably $1,200. I ended up paying, don't remember, but I got it around when it first came out. A couple months later. Definitely worth the money, and it's still a great camera in my book. If you're looking into just joining YouTube or just starting with photography, definitely check it out. It's very budget friendly, and it's got pretty much anything you can need for a beginner. So, I am going to switch cameras here and talk about the 90D specs and show you guys some of the body stuff that I was talking about earlier. Switching now. Alright, we are back on the 80D here. So, sorry if the colors are different in this. I just set the custom white balance on this so I could try and match them as much as I could. But anyways, so, on to the 90D here. Like I was saying, the layout for the, hold on. No, can't. Alright, anyways, the layout for your inputs back here are slightly different. And here, as I said, is the joystick. I don't know if you guys can see it very well. It's a little dark. Shoot some B-roll, show you guys. And the Q button is now right underneath that. And the play button got moved right down here. So, little minor changes as far as the ergonomics go. To pull out the LCD screen, there's a little divot here. You can use that, as well as underneath the camera. Like I said, the grip on this is a little bit different, but not by much. So, into the specs. This is obviously still a ASPC crop sensor, but it is a 33 megapixel sensor. So that will definitely help for you photographers out there and making bigger prints. You can definitely see that detail in when you zoom in your photos and when you have larger prints done. The ISO on this is 100 to 51,200. Now, as far as noise goes, I think, in my opinion, the 90D is a little bit better, not by much, just slightly, in low light situations and higher ISOs and better noise control as far as, like I said, in lighter, or not lighter, in darker situations. As far as frames per second, you can get 11 frames per second with the 90D as opposed to the 7 frames with the 80D. The resolution is 4K. You can do 4K video with this camera right here. That's what I was doing, but now I'm going to have to up-res this video to 4K just so everything looks pretty close to normal. I can tell right now the colors are going to be a little off, but whatever. That's fine. Okay, next up, battery life. You can get up to 1,300 shots with the same LPE6 battery as the 90D. So they improved with the battery life there. Alright, so on the Canon 80D, it is a Digic 6 processor, and on the 90D, we have the Digic 8 processor. So, the processor, I'm sure, helps with those shots there. But moving on to connection, you do have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth as far as the connection. I use Wi-Fi. I find that the Bluetooth is a little laggy, a little bit difficult to work with, and not quite as good as the Wi-Fi. But it's cool they have it. Maybe in a future update they can, I don't know, help out with that. I don't think I talked about this for the 80D, but the SD cards. You can now use UHS-2 SD cards with the 90D and better write speeds and stuff like that. Whereas the 90D, you can only have a UHS-1 SD card. That was the max for the 80D. Now, as far as stabilization goes, this has electrical stabilization inside here. It is not IBIS, but electrically it helps with the stabilization. There is a slight crop and even more of a crop when you go to the, I believe it's advanced or enhanced. That's what it is, the enhanced stabilization. But if you just go into the normal stabilization, it's just a slight drop, slight crop. Nothing too noticeable or anything like that. Autofocus. This does have face and tracking detection just like the 80D, but it now tracks your eye as well. So you'll get a box around your face as well as your eye when you're recording with the 90D. Frame rates. So, the 90D can do up to 60 frames, or not 60, wow, that'd be cool, up to 30 frames per second in 4K. This does have higher frame rates. It can go up to 120 at 1080p, but you lose autofocus and 4K at those high frame rates. But you can also do up to 60 frames per second in 1080p on this. So a little bit more options, and I am so glad that Canon introduced 4K into the 90D. Pretty much if it didn't have 4K, I wasn't going to buy it. But moving on. The price for the 90D is about $1,200, probably a little bit more after tax and everything, and that is just with the body only on Amazon right now. Now, as something else I wanted to touch on, I touched on the noise reduction and versus the 80D and 90D. I wanted to touch on the focusing on the 90D too. I think it is, once again, not by much, but slightly better than the 80D. So definitely a great entry-level DSLR. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some professionals out there using the 90D as well. It's the only downside about this camera is it is not full frame. And while there's no raw video in this or ProRes, which would be great, but that would also bump that price up a good bit there. But anyways, guys, that is it. That is the 80D versus the 90D. I hope this video helped you guys if you're thinking about buying one and you might want to go with a cheaper one or the more expensive one. If you are, I would say just save up a little bit more money and go with the 90D. I'm not saying that the 80D isn't worth it. It is well worth the money, and it is a great camera. But the newer one has 4K. It's newer. It's got electrical stabilization, and you can do higher frame rates with it. So I would say save up a little bit more money and go with the 90D. But anyways, yes, if this video helped you guys at all, okay, that hasn't died yet, so that's good. Give it a thumbs up, and as always, make sure to subscribe. That would be great. I appreciate all of you that do subscribe. But anyways, that is it, guys. I'm out. Peace.